Welcome to this week's edition of Sacred Space. Thank you so much for joining us as we have been trying to journey in this season of being separated and scattered and trying to find ways in our ordinary places, in our homes, outside, try to understand and to create a sense of sacred space where we can touch the divine and be enveloped and embraced by God's presence. So for the last couple of weeks, I haven't done a sacred space because I was away on vacation. I'm trying to take a moment, a Sabbath, if you will, in between this turbulent time of learning and trying to be the church. No one teaches you in seminary how to pastor during a pandemic. So thank you for your patience as we haven't had a video in the last couple of weeks. But right before I was leaving, I was cleaning up my dining room table. And when I was cleaning up my dining room table, it was our place where we did school and where I worked and often created videos for our online ministry here at Samson Mills. And I cleaned everything off, put away the books. The books went back to school. The calculators and the school supplies went into the drawers away for next year in the fall. And I put away the video equipment that I've been using and all of my books, and just to give my table a clean wipe, a clean slate after it has been transformed into a new place and a new kind of ministry. And when I did, I stepped back and I noticed the emptiness. And I took a picture of it, black and white, and I posted it on Facebook. And when I did, I told people about the grief I felt. The grief I felt of how everything changed all of a sudden, and how our schools were shut down and churches were closed, at least their buildings were closed, and how that room had become such more than just a place where we would gather friends and family around for a meal. It became this workstation and school station, but it was also a symbol of how hard everything was. And as I cleaned up, as I put things away, I was overwhelmed by the grief that I felt, overwhelmed of the sadness of the last couple of months. And so we've tried to make replications, like this is a replication of ministry here during our online ministry, and they've been great. Our teachers have been wonderful. We've asked them to do things that are way beyond their job descriptions. And we try to make these replicates of real life, of togetherness, of school, of church, and all those things. And they have all been great and great efforts, innovative, wonderful, creative things. But there's still a lot of grief. And we're all dealing with the trauma of that grief, of missed things, of graduations and proms and celebrations, of being with family and being connected with our community, of sending our kids to school or taking them to their extracurriculars and watching them being joyful of doing the things that they love. I was overwhelmed with that grief. And that's the thing I want to talk about today. Is I want us to allow space in this time, in this turbulent and unprecedented time, to allow ourselves to grieve and to lament all of the loss. And what we're seeing right now on the TV and after the aftermath of the shooting of George Floyd is really that pent up anger and anxiety and all of the things that have been ripped wide open in the midst of this pandemic. We have a problem with race in our country and the way in which people are treated based on the color of their skin. And the riots and the protest and the anger, those things have been erupting. And that's a place of grief too. We want to live in a world and in a society, in our American society, where we live out the values in which we profess. And when we don't live them out and there's a rub and the injustice comes, how do we speak out about that? What I want us to do first is to go back and to grieve these things, to allow all the grief to come to you. Sit in it. Be uncomfortable with it. Be disturbed by it. Be angered by it. Allow it to come to you. Recently heard Brene Brown say, and I think I might even quoted this in another one of these videos, is that often what we want to do is that we want to be the light in other people's darkness, because we're uncomfortable to sit with the darkness. So what I want us to do in this moment of sacred space is to sit with the darkness. Sit with the grief of all of this, the pandemic, the exacerbations of disparities where folks who are poorer and of color are being disproportionately affected by the disease, the loss of folks who are our treasures, our grandparents, the devastation in our nursing homes. And I want us to know that loss and the loss of livelihood, of jobs, millions of jobs being lost, of loss of opportunities and of connection, to allow yourself to sit with that, to sit with the anger that is bubbling up in our society right now, and to be uncomfortable by it, to lament, to be disturbed, to cry, to mourn, to weep, and to find deep within our hearts the cry that comes from the psalmist, "O Lord, how long?" So I want to read Psalm 13 for us as a way to kind of get into this. To sit in the darkness and to find it for a moment to be its uncomfortableness to be something that guides us to what comes out of it. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I bear pain in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all day long? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep the sleep of deaths. And my enemy will say, I have prevailed. My foes will rejoice because I am shaken. But I trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord, because he has dealt bountifully with me. Walter Brueggemann, who's an Old Testament professor, writes about the Psalms of lament, the Psalms of grief, that they are the Psalms of darkness. They are an act of bold faith, albeit a transformed faith. It is an act of bold faith on the one hand, because it insists that the world must be experienced as it really is and not in some pretend way. On the other hand, it is bold because it insists that all such experiences of disorder are a proper subject for discourse with God. There is nothing out of bounds, nothing precluded or inappropriate. James May says, another commentator, the psalm teaches us how to pray, but it also shows us who we are when we pray. Agony and adoration hung together by a cry for life. That is the truth about us as people of faith. We are simultaneously the anxious, fearful, dying, historical person who cannot find God where we want God to be, and the elect with the second history, a salvation history, a life hid with Christ and God. Grief allows us to mourn the world as we want it to be, as we intend it to be. So sit in the darkness, turn everything off, and allow yourself in this moment, in this time, in this place, to feel all the feels. Don't do a chore. Don't do a to-do list. Just sit with it. Because it is good for us to grieve and lament and let our agony come out to God. This is this week's sacred space and your sacred duty this week, to sit in the darkness, to not be overcome by it, but to also find where those shadows lead you to. A place of seeking justice, of seeking peace, of seeking restoration, and of seeking hope. May you be blessed and be a blessing. Amen.